As we walked toward the gym, I could sense Lee slowing down. I could sense myself slowing down, too. "I wish we could swap hair," I said. She nodded. "Are we trying to prove something that we don't need to prove?" I wish I knew. The moment we walked inside, I felt a couple pairs of eyes lock onto us. Then a couple more. Then just about everyone in the place turned toward us. I wasn't sure whether they were staring at the freakier version of me, the straighter version of Lee, or the odd combination of the two of us. "Want to dance?" I barely heard my own voice, but I guess it was loud enough since she nodded. We started dancing. It was a fast song, and I figured I looked like a chicken that had just encountered a high-tension power line. But Lee didn't seem to mind. When the music stopped, I noticed a lot of people were still watching us. The first one to move was Terry. He strolled over, staring down at us from somewhere beyond 6 feet. "Hey, where'd you pick up the loser?" Those would have been fighting words, except he said them to Lee. And then he grinned at us. Which was a good thing, since tackling Terry would have been about as suicidal as tackling Wesley. Terry held out one hand. I had to jump, but I managed to give him a high five. "Hot chocolate," he said. "That was cool writing. You're a funny guy, Hudson." When he walked away, it was as if someone had thrown a switch in everyone's brain. We were no longer interesting. People went back to dancing. So there I was, at the last social event of the year, dancing with a great girl. A girl who wasn't afraid to be herself, and who wasn't afraid to step away from the safety of her chosen identity. I doubt there were many other kids in the gym, or anywhere else for that matter, who had the courage to do what Lee had done. I was still worried about Mom, but there wasn't anything I could do right now. Soon enough, the dance would be over, and I'd go back to the hospital. For the moment, I figured I'd try to keep my worries under control. "She looks sad," Lee said when we took a break to grab a soda. I followed her gaze and spotted Julia standing by herself near the rear exit. "Yeah, she does look sad," I said. "She broke up with Vernon the other night." "Why don't you dance with her?" Lee said. "What?" "Go on. No girl should stand around by herself all night, unless she likes being alone. And I don't think Julia is that sort of girl." "She might not want to dance," I said. "Sure she would. Besides, girls go crazy for a head of dyed hair, even if the head itself is slightly damaged. Go dance with her, Scott." "If you insist." I walked toward Julia. This was like one of my dreams, except each step took a whole lot of effort, as if the gym floor had suddenly tilted 45 degrees. "Hi, you okay?" I asked when I reached her. Julia gave me a sad smile. "Yeah, I'm okay." I guess girls lie about that, too. "Dance?" I asked. She nodded. "I'd like that." The band started a slow song. Oh my God. Before I could dash away and hide, Julia stepped up close and put a hand on my shoulder and another around my back. We danced. Everything felt so unreal. The dance lasted a lifetime, but ended in an eye blink. We swayed together for a moment after the music stopped. I think she would have stayed in my arms forever. After an eternity, I let go of her and stepped back. "Thanks," Julia said. "That was nice of you." "My pleasure." "And thanks for sharing your crackers with me." "You remember that?" "Of course." She smiled, then said, "I figured you'd forgotten all about it. I guess we kind of lost touch with each other." "Yeah." I had to ask her something. "The other night, why'd you say I was lucky?" "Look at you, Scott. You've got it made." "No, I don't." "Are you kidding? You're on the newspaper, you were in the stage crew, you got elected to student council. Everywhere I look, there you are. I don't know how you managed to fit it all in." "It's no big deal." "Yes, it is. Everyone reads your articles. The jocks love the attention. You're smart, you get good grades, you live in a nice house, your parents aren't split up or anything." "But do you have any idea how many kids would love to be you?" "No idea at all." I shrugged, hopelessly confused. My God, it was just like all the stories we read in English, except this wasn't some O. Henry tale with a twist ending. This was my life, my amazing life. There's the irony, I said. It was her turn to be puzzled. What do you mean? Through my eyes? You're the one with the great life. As I spoke, I saw something else through my eyes. Vernon was rumbling toward us from my left. I spoke the next words quickly, both because I knew I didn't have much time, and because I needed to get them out before I lost my nerve. You're gorgeous, Julia. You're smart, and you're wonderful. Trust me, you are very special. Vernon pushed my shoulder. I turned to face him. I wasn't scared of him anymore. I wasn't scared of anyone. The crowd had closed in around us, sniffing at the promise of bloodshed. I warned you, Vernon said. I looked right in his eyes. The first time he'd threatened me, he'd been with 3 of his friends. Last week, when he'd beaten me up, he'd jumped me from behind. The truth was right in front of me. Vernon was a coward. I thought about all those hours I'd watched him on the football field, the way he ran, the way he threw the ball. His whole strategy was controlled by fear. It was in the way he wrestled, too. That's why he lost so often. Fear ruled his life. Face to face, one-on-one, he wouldn't throw a punch. Not when I was free to fight back. I was dead certain of that. Vernon glanced over his shoulder. I guess he was looking for his friends. I spotted a couple of his buddies heading toward us. They didn't make it. Ben and the rest of the stage crew guys cut them off. A couple basketball players joined the crew. There was nobody backing Vernon up. If he wanted to start something, he'd have to do it alone and face to face. You're just a bunch of freshman losers, he said. He glared at me, sneered at Julia, then walked off. Talk about a limited viewpoint, I said, though I don't think it's third person, more like last person. That got another smile from Julia. I went back to Lee. Except for the part where it almost led to my death, that wasn't such a bad suggestion. I thought so. The band played another slow song. I opened my arms, and Lee stepped toward me as if we'd done this 1,000,000 times. So, who do you like dancing with better? She asked, resting her head against my shoulder. That's not the sort of question I'd expect from you, I said. People change, she said. Yeah, everything changes. Flux is all around us. Who did I like dancing with better? I held her a bit closer. No contest, Lee. Act 3. Oh, brother. Where'd you get the limo? I asked Wesley as we headed back to the hospital. We were all riding in the front now. Told you already, he said. I borrowed it. Yeah, but who'd you borrow it from? He pointed at a small sign on the dashboard next to the glove compartment. Wesco Limos. I leaned closer. Wesley Cobble, Sr., owner. Your dad owns Wesco Limos? I asked. He nodded. Rents snowmobiles, too. And jet skis. He hit the brakes and turned to stare at me. You think I steal cars? Of course not. Wesley nodded and drove on. I've been tempted a couple of times. Please don't, I said. Yeah, please don't, Lee said. We'd hate to see you get sent away. She turned to me. Speaking of which, you know what? What? I put my arm around her. She didn't seem to mind. You keep insisting that you were nice to Mouth even though you didn't like him. Yeah? But I'm pretty sure you're lying to yourself. No way. Guys never lie. Yeah, right. The thing is, I think you sort of liked Mouth all along. I'd never imagined that possibility. But then again, I never imagined I'd be dancing with Lee. Maybe I did sort of like Mouth. I was still writing to him. I guess that meant something. And I was always thinking about the wild stuff he'd said. Wesley pulled back onto Route 22. This time, he kept the limo within 10 miles of the limit. At least, for most of the trip. I'll wait here, he said when we reached the hospital. Take your time. No, you won't. I opened the door and slid out. I want you to come. Both of you. So there we were. Me and Lee and Wesley, standing on one side of a big glass window, gazing at my new brother. He stared right back at me, too. Like he already knew he could trust me. He looks just like you, Lee said to me. Nah, Wesley said. He's a lot less goofy. If that's what I look like, I said, just kill me now. Dad came up behind me and put an arm around my shoulders. Life is good, he said. No worries, mate, I said. What? Dad asked. Oh, just something I learned in Spanish, I told him. Then I introduced him to my friends. Wow, 2 small words that mean a lot. My friends. Still May 17th. Happy birthday. Sorry I don't have a present for you, but you showed up a bit early. Not that I would have had something for you if you were on time. Wait, I do have something for you. I have a promise. I won't let you down. Honest. I might make your life miserable and play the most awful tricks on you and exploit you in every conceivable way, but I swear I'll never let you down. For example, I won't lie to you. I'll tell you right now, newborn babies are ugly. Possibly even hideous. Every single one. You're no exception. Ick. Just thought you'd want to know. I'm not even all that jealous. Except for one thing. You get to sleep as much as you want. I'd do anything to trade places. Well, anything except wear a diaper. I guess that's about it for this thing I've been writing, whatever it is. I may make a few more notes now and then, but I think all the tips and stuff I put in here should be enough to give you a good start. You can avoid my mistakes and make some of your own. That's what life is all about. Welcome to my world, Sean, you ugly toad.
Scene. It's scene.
Yeah, I hate when people say Sean.
Chapter 33. I put the notebook away for a while, but I couldn't get out of the habit of writing. So I tried other things, stories, plays, even some poems, although I'd never admit that to anyone except Lee and Mr. Franca. I've been writing letters, too, mostly to Mouth. He writes back, long, rambling letters. But it's not just noise. He has a lot to say. So do I, some of which I'll share with the world, and some of which I'll save for a special audience. June 7th. I'm home. School's over. I figured the last day deserved an entry. Not that this is a diary. I can't take too long because Wesley and Lee are waiting for me downstairs. We're going out for pizza. Lee's gotten good at keeping Wesley from stealing knives and salt shakers, though she somehow got her hands on that guillotine last week, so I suspect she doesn't object to everything Wesley does. From now on, I can tell you stuff in person, even if you're currently pretending not to understand a word I say. Actually, with all the weird sounds you're making, I think I can get you a job at Zenger teaching Spanish. Adios. Mom and Dad spend a ton of time with you. Yet, paradoxically, hey, you didn't think the vocabulary words would stop just because school's out, did you? They seem to have more time than ever for me. Dad and I are going away next weekend to do some bass fishing on Lake Erie. I'd bring you along, but we're not planning to use live bait. I was going to buy you your first book right after you were born, but Mum beat me to it. She actually bought you 6 books, including Goodnight Moon and Pat the Bunny. It was a pretty good selection, though I would have added something a bit edgier to the mix, like Dracula, or at least Banicula. Dad bought you a plastic tool set. Maybe you'll be an all-around sort of guy, someone who can rebuild an engine and write a sonnet. Hey, the world needs both, engines and sonnets. They both take us places we'd never reach on our own. Bobby called last night from New Orleans. They're about midway through the concert tour. When he got his first check, he bought us a computer. You aren't allowed near it until you get control over that whole drooling problem of yours. He and Mom talk a lot on the phone. I think he's been telling her all sorts of stuff he'd kept locked up. I found out there's a place at the community college that helps people who have reading problems. I didn't mention it to Bobby yet. That can wait until he comes home between tours. But he's going to find out how much pleasure there is in reading. No way I'm going to let one of my brothers miss out on that. Julia started dating a nicer guy. I'm happy for her. We always say hi when we pass each other in the halls. Lee dyed her hair orange. It looks pretty hot. My own red disaster is growing out. I thought about shaving my head, but decided to let things go back to normal on their own schedule. It's just hair. No big deal. They're shouting for me to come down. I really have to go. We need to celebrate the end of school. Wesley is going to graduate. And wow, I'm not a freshman anymore. I'm a sophomore. Imagine that. Flux rocks, Scott said conclusively.